Speaker Trump. It goes way deeper than you've heard. Asterisk 100% fedup.com asterisk by Noah. If it's true that we're watching a movie, then perhaps all the drama around the Speaker of the House situation is just a great story arc playing out and slowly paving the way for President Trump to step in. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than perhaps they need to. Make it look good. Make it look real. Give it a little drama. We've covered the potential for Trump to become Speaker many times here, but today I want to focus on some different angles we haven't really dug into before. Because the more you peel back the onion here, the more you realize this not only makes sense but this solves a ton of problems all at once. And it seems like the perfect little prologue to Trump returning as president in 2024. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. Imagine the progression that might someday be recorded in the history books when the dust settles and all is truly known. President. Commander-in-Chief. Speaker. President. Wow. How do you take a constitutionally limited 8-year term and stretch it out? This seems like a pretty brilliant way to do it, all while letting Joe Biden seemingly preside over the complete collapse of the country, inflation, wars, border invasion, etc. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. You red pill the people by letting them see how truly bad it can get, and how quickly it can get there, under something like a Biden-Harris administration, while still retaining much control, continuity of government, in the background. Now let's dig in deeper to understand what else is at play here that you've probably never heard of. This comes to us courtesy of a post from my friend Defender of the Republic, who reposted a Telegram post and a Rumble video from Ivan Raiklin, speaking at the Reawaken Tour. I know some of you love the Reawaken Tour and some are very skeptical of Clay Clark, but please set that aside for now. That's not the purpose of this post and please don't get sidetracked by it. The man in the front with his back to us is Ivan Raiklin, who is the speaker in the video I'm about to show you. Here he is presenting his information to Lara Trump and Eric Trump. In other words, Trump's inner circle most definitely now has this information. And now to the video. Speaking at Clay Clark's Reawaken event at Trump Doral Hotel in Miami, Ivan lays out why we need the head of the Republican Party to be Speaker of the House of Representatives. Huge support and applause from the crowd. Watch as he lays out all the things a Trump speakership could immediately do. It's way bigger than just getting Trump into Congress or getting him third in line for the presidency. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. One quick spoiler. Kash Patel is involved and would immediately have subpoena and law enforcement power. And you'd better believe he would use it liberally. I have a feeling the whole Scalise, Jim Jordan thing is just a distraction. I could of course be wrong, but I don't think Speaker Trump is off the table, not by a long shot. Here's a lot more on how it could all work. By now you've no doubt heard that it's becoming more and more likely that Trump could actually become Speaker of the House. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm saying it's possible. Some people have tried to pour cold water on that idea recently, citing to something called Rule 26 inches, which says House Republicans must step aside if indicted for a felony. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. A lot of Trump haters have been shouting about this all day saying, see, Trump can't be Speaker, and yet, that's not quite true. First of all, that's not a law. It's apparently a rule that can be voted on, and changed, at any time. In other words, if there was a strong enough vote to actually vote President Trump into Speaker, that same vote could modify this rule. It's a gray area, in the first place, because Trump as Speaker would not be a member of the House. So it's unclear if the rule would even apply to him. In the first place, incredibly enough, President Trump has not declined the job and has indicated he may be open to it. Yesterday we floated the idea that President Trump could become Speaker of the House and that could potentially set off a chain of perhaps very carefully planned events. I'll provide all those details below. Then last night Hannity reported Trump was in talks about it and was open to it. Then today President Trump was asked directly about it and he answered. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. You can watch the clip below. But he says some very interesting things. He says, a lot of people have been calling him. He will do what's best for the Republican Party and the American people. We have some great people in Congress. He says he's focused on the presidential race. But then he says, if I can help them during the process, I do it. Other people could do a great job too. I'll do whatever is necessary to help. Real in the sense it comes from a real sitting member of Congress, Mr. Troy E. Nels. Bravo sir, it's not a formal motion, but you gotta love this guy getting this out on Twitter just hours after McCarthy got thrown out on his butt. From his Twitter bio, Troy is a congressman from Texas 22. A member of the Freedom Caucus and proudly serving on the Judiciary and Transport GOP committees, all. The drama today is about Kevin McCarthy, but I want to shift away from him for a minute and talk about what happens if he is vacated as Speaker of the House. Does this pave way for the absolutely wild theory we told you about last year? We've reported on this before, and it looked dead in the water with McCarthy appointed Speaker, but is it suddenly back in play? Oh my, look, I'm not saying this is going to happen, or even likely to happen, but it is possible to happen, and it's suddenly back on the table. Time equals 400 ms, greater than, and it lines up perfectly with what Trump just told us last week. Remember this. President Trump. In less than 5 months, we're going to defeat Biden. About 2 years ago, we first started telling you about the plan to bring back Trump before 2024. I'll copy the full story down below so you can see what we've been telling you longer than anyone else. But here's the short summary. You don't have to be a member of Congress to be appointed as Speaker of the House. So, the theory that we published here was that President Trump could be appointed Speaker of the House, then Biden and Harris removed. And then who steps right into the presidency? No one would ever vote for Trump. Won't happen, they said. Time equals 400 ms, greater than. Others said even if that happened, there would be no way to get rid of Biden and Harris. But now, don't forget folks. We still have a little thing called the Brunson brothers case. Brunson versus Adams, which could remove 383 members of Congress plus Biden and Harris in an instant. That is still pending in the Supreme Court and is not finished yet. In fact, it seems as though the SCOTUS is just waiting for the exact right time to hear it. President Trump once famously said, "I'd love to lose everything for a period." Why? He was asked the answer. Because then I'd really know who my true friends and allies were. Well sir, you're learning right now, and Matt Gaetz is confirming he's a true friend and ally, and a man who truly understands what the MAGA movement means. So sad to see Jim Jordan, Byron Donalds and MTG all siding with McCarthy today. Is the plan we first told you about 2 years ago actually playing out before our very eyes? The movie hasn't been so good up to this point, but I have a feeling you're going to love how this thing ends. Here was my original post with much more details on how it would all work. And how interesting as I go back and reread this. Matt Gaetz was all over it from the very beginning, hidden in plain sight. Time equals 400 ms, greater than, but then Matt Gaetz talked about it and President Trump gave it a tacit head nod saying, "That's interesting. More on those details below in just a minute." But suddenly today, as the election results are still coming in and it appears as though the Republicans will almost certainly take the House and very likely the Senate too, suddenly this plan popped back into my head. And suddenly a couple of the big pieces now seem to be falling in place. Because in order to execute this plan, you need a Republican House and a Republican Senate. Time equals 400 ms, greater than, and we just may have those very soon. Based on everything I'm seeing, I think it's very likely we get 51 or 52 in seats in the Senate. So please allow me to lay out the plan again, and now that we see the pieces moving into place, I'm curious what you think now. Last year, I brought you the story of a brilliant plan to reinstate Trump as president before 2024, and to maybe get him 10 years in office overall. Parts of the plan had been shared online before, but when I published my article, this was the first time I'd heard a few of the pieces come into play, and I thought it was brilliant. I'm going to repost the plan below in case you missed it. The most common feedback I saw in response to my article was that it will never happen, because Trump has been told about it and said he wasn't interested. And today I got my confirmation, and it came from Matt Gaetz and President Trump at Trump's most recently rally. Matt Gaetz laid out the plan live at the rally with President Trump standing right next to him. He did the condensed version, so be sure to read below in my article to get all the absolutely brilliant details of how this will work. But Gates laid out the plan and Trump is standing right there. It's almost like they both put it right out there for all you to see, isn't it? Just says, "That's interesting," with a huge smirk on his face. Watch here. And now if you want to know the full details, please keep reading. This is from my original post about 2 to 3 months ago. Yes. I know everyone has heard of the plan that Trump could become Speaker of the House and then impeach Biden and Harris and take over. I always dismissed it as nonsense. Trump is not even running for Congress and being in Congress would be beneath him. Time equals 400 ms, greater than foolishness, I thought. But that was until I heard the extra pieces to the plan this week. I had never in my life even heard some of this was possible, but I researched it and it turns out it is possible. Time equals 400 ms, greater than. I live and breath this stuff all day long and I had no idea of some of these details. So I have a suspicion it will be new to you as well. Let's dig in, shall we? Let me introduce you to Dr. Jan Helper Hayes, who has just explained in under 3 minutes how President Trump could very well become president again before 2024. Let's start with her short video and then scroll down for my analysis. Okay. So basically here's the summary if you're not able to watch the video. We have record numbers of members of Congress retiring or not running for re-election. That plus the disaster of the Biden regime has the Republicans set to have a massive red wave of new seats in Congress. So many seats that they could easily conduct an impeachment of Biden and Harris. Time equals 400 ms, greater than. Now here's where it gets interesting. What if massive fraud is uncovered just before that red wave happens? What if it becomes crystal clear to even CNN and MSDNC that Biden and Harris stole the election? What if the evidence is so irrefutable, the entire country knows it? Well, you could try to have the election unwound and decertified, but as we've seen that seems to be an incredibly long process with unclear legal precedent. But what if there were a much quicker and easier way? Time equals 400 ms, greater than. What if you simply impeached Biden and Harris? If you had a red wave, you could do it in a few days, especially if it was on the heels of clear evidence showing they cheated. So what if Trump were appointed as the Speaker of the House by that same red wave? I previously thought this was far-fetched because he isn't running for any seat in Congress, nor would he want to. It's below a president. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Did you know you don't have to be a member of Congress to be appointed Speaker of the House? So now you have a process that could play out in a matter of days and Trump suddenly is back in the White House as president, without Pence too, as we've suspected all along and written about extensively here at We Love Trump. I believe a sting operation was launched on November 3, 2020 and I believe they captured all of the cheating live and in real time. I believe they've had it for almost a year and a half. But they can't release it until the red wave of 2022 is done and the rest of the plan is ready to go. Then you roll out what I described above and there is nothing anyone can do to stop it. Think the delay has been long? It's unfortunately been a critical part of the plan. Here's the last and best part. I believe if Trump takes office like this, the remaining time until 2024 does not count against him. So he gets that time and then wins in the biggest landslide ever in 2024 to serve a total of 10 years in office. And you had better believe these next 5 years will be unlike anything you've ever seen or even heard about in your lifetime. I believe he had to lay low in his first term. I believe the first term was all about catching the election fraud in process so that the decades of election steals in America would finally come to an end. Yes, he did some great things along the way, but I believe the entire first term was mostly about getting into power so he could catch the election fraud in process. You didn't really think he was caught off guard, did you? You didn't really think he didn't have a plan, did you? Time equals 400 ms, greater than. Of course not. They launched the most extensive and detailed sting operation we have ever seen and he watched it all live from his SCIF in the Eisenhower building. The plan was more brilliant than any of us ever expected. Time equals 400 ms, greater than. Since I expect that YouTube clip will soon get deleted, I found a backup here on Rumble. At a rally in Georgia on Saturday night, Florida Representative Matt Gaetz introduced former President Donald Trump and said this: "Give us the ability to fire Nancy Pelosi, Take back the majority. Impeach Joe Biden and I am going to nominate Donald Trump for Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. To which Trump responded, "Well, that was interesting." Yes, it was, chatter about Trump being nominated as Speaker has been kicking around in right-wing circles for some time now. Gates has previously pledged to nominate Trump for Speaker and said that he has spoken to him about the idea, although he gave no indication of whether the former president would be interested in the job. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than in November. Former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows said that he would love to see the gavel go from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Donald Trump. You talk about melting down. People would go crazy. Trump himself has also, in a general sense, entertained the idea too. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than in June 2021. The former president told conservative radio talk show host Wayne Allen Root that the idea of becoming House Speaker was very interesting. Here's the reality. 1. Trump could technically be elected Speaker since there is no constitutional requirement that position be held by a member of the House. 2. There's also no way he is going to actually be Speaker. On that second point, Trump seems to be moving steadily toward a second run for president in 2024, and a pit stop at the labor-intensive job of Speaker of the House is just not in the realm of possibility.